how he performs on that. My eye is going to be on Nidus though. I've seen him play Sombra and Tracer in matchmaking, and it's been okay. So I'm interested to see how he goes against.
What's going on here?
Yeah, it's a heavy DPS strategy. They're going for a 3 DPS or 4 DPS strategy. Interesting to see if it pays off. It's a gamble.
Certainly is. Well, Davey at the moment looks to be on the main tank role, which would be, I suppose, what you might have expected from him, although I did hear whispers that he might be going on to DPS. I don't know whether that's eventuated into a whole lot. Gus gets the pick onto Kazet.
Yeah, and that was a spawn pick too. Gus swapping to the Widow in spawn to pick off the high flying
That's a 1-for-1. Dalsu does drop there as well. Looks like Mercedes has started off nicely, but what more can be offered here as Ground Zero make their way onto that point, and it's time for Melbourne Mavericks to just back away. It looks like it might have been on 2 different pages there, Mavericks, with half the roster backing away perhaps to collect Kazet, and the other half still trying to fight it out on the point. And we know that when you're on 2 different minds, things tend not to go too well. Ground Zero will get the first cap here on the port.
Yeah, some interesting compositions coming out. A bit more standard from Ground Zero, but Gus looks to be all over this map. He's already got 3 final blows. His Diva has been finding these alone targets, these low HP targets, and finishing them off. So it's good play from him. It'll be interesting to see how Mavericks try and use this EMP here. Will they try and dive the backline of Money and Dalsu, or will they try and EMP the front line and take them out? As we see Nami picking up Mercedes again.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to use that EMP in a situation like this. I mean, you kind of need to get into a fight in a 6v6 situation where that EMP is going to have an impact. But if you're going to continue to get picked off here before the fight starts, obviously that's going to be an issue for Melbourne Mavericks.
It certainly does seem like a bit of an issue. Mercedes has been put under a lot of pressure this map already. He's gone down twice, and they seem to have a bit of an... I don't even know what the word I'm trying to put out is.
I don't know either, quite
That's
frankly.
alright.
Yeah, it's been a struggle for Melbourne Mavericks, hasn't it? It's been a pretty messy game. Crimson Wolf will get the EMP off. It hits 2 or 3 players. I think Nami was caught in that. And it'll be finished off by the Rocket Barrage. Now Davey on the point under quite a substantial amount of pressure. A nice sound barrier down does keep him fairly healed up. Although was it not even a sound barrier? What am I talking about? It's just the
adaptive shield.
Just the adaptive shield. Normally when I see a big shield like that, I'm just instantly thinking, you know what, that's a sound barrier. But anyway.
Crimson Wolf unfortunately catching 2 targets, low value targets with the EMP. He might have caught Nami, but Juboy gets the rally off, meaning he's pretty invincible with that thing going on.
Yeah.
Gustus goes around the corner, no damage out from it. His team can't follow up. It's a poor use of EMP.
Have a look at what Nami is keeping an eye on. Those 2 flyers, really wants to get them out of the sky, searching for them, but runs straight into a mine. Davey having a big impact on the Wrecking Ball in this particular fight. Is it still salvageable for Ground Zero? Certainly looks like it won't be. The self-destruct was not invested in there by Gus. I mean, he did at least manage to get 1, and we're at 99% for Ground Zero. So if you're going to drop the fight, if you're going to reset anywhere, you'd be pretty happy for it to be at this point. Yeah,
they didn't invest any ults in that. As soon as Davey comes in on the Wrecking Ball, manages to get 2 kills. One of them a little bit lucky with Nami not crossing the street very wisely and manages to take himself out. But I like to see Davey back on this main tank. I think it's his strongest role. He's played a lot of roles in Contenders, and he deems himself a flexible player, but I think this main tank is where he really belongs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in that respect. Nami still is looking to be a bit of a fly spotter here.
This is a big EMP.
Send that translocator straight up. EMP on top of both the Mercy and the Farah. Gets them out of the sky, although QVN has survived for the moment. A hack does go into Davey, and you talk about big EMPs. Well, that's a big hack. If you get hacked as a Wrecking Ball, there's not much that you can even do. You can't even roll around. Mercedes, a nice pick across from the Widowmaker onto Nami, but probably not enough to salvage this fight, particularly when Money is going to chase him down.
I've seen Money win those, so Mercedes wisely backing off. I don't know. I feel like they've missed the beat here with this DPS composition on the side of Melbourne Mavericks. Mercedes, I don't know much about this player. I'm assuming he rates his Widowmaker a lot, but at that point especially is quite hard to get value out of it. There's a lot of line of sight issues with that point. The enemy team can drag you in close where, you know, Mini's able to disrupt you. There's an enemy Sombra. Like, it's a lot of work to put in if you're trying to play Widowmaker on that point.
Yeah, without feeling too harsh, I don't feel necessarily that Melbourne Mavericks have managed to get that synergy rolling. Obviously, it's a very new roster. We've seen the mass shift of, what, 5 players from Melbourne Mavericks of last week into this week. So they haven't had a lot of time to work together, but it just seemed like they weren't really always on the same page. They weren't working together at the right times, and it did look a little bit messy, quite frankly. But for Melbourne Mavericks, they're going to go again and have another crack, and this time with the Bastion bunker composition. Nidus will be there on the Batiste. Ground Zero have another little spanner in the works to try and deal with.
Yeah, it's a more classical version of this Bastion comp, and Mercedes on cue, he takes out one, but it looks like that might be the only thing that they'll be able to get this fight.
You say that, the Revive's going to come across.
Yeah, Money with the knockoff on the Bastion there, manages to take him out, and that's the key kill. Executing a nice dive on the side of Ground Zero to take out that Bastion and break that bunker comp.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good this week for Ground Zero, isn't it? We saw flashes of this last week, and it was more so about getting that consistency. Many maybe overextending a little bit there, pushing into enemy territory, but the cost of his life may not actually be as big as it could have been, because Melbourne Mavericks seem to be fairly slow to mobilize here.
Yeah, it will take a while for them to get onto the point. Probably 2 shield cooldowns, and yeah, their Bastion just running back from spawn now, so they really can't do anything until he's in position.
Money's looking for a boop as well.
He is, he's hungry for it. He looks at that Orisa, hoping the Fortify goes down, and then he's in the game.
What is the avenue that he's going to take? Oh, it's going to be straight onto the Widowmaker. A dive alongside Gas. Well, Batiste is available, and that means life's going to be a little bit more difficult for Ground Zero. Self-destruct kill in there as well. Now Davey is onto, well, he was playing main tank before. QVN is the one that I'm talking about on Bastion, as he will get the couple kills that they need to cap the point up.
He manages to get nice value out of that Bastion ult there, but again, a lot of ults expended on the side of the Melbourne Mavericks. Davey, I believe, was the only one who kept his ultimate through that whole fight. Crimson Wolf did throw out the bomb, so Ground Zero might be able to come back in here with their support ultimates and get right on top of this Bastion.
Yeah.
Take out that protective field from the Baptiste, and then
I mean, not only the support ultimates, but you're going to see self-destruct coming up, and that is going to be a real terror to deal with as a bunker composition. It's going to force you to split a lot, but it is going to be the early sound barrier that's invested. Nidus goes down first, which is, again, going to make life a little bit easier in trying to dispatch of this Bastion. The dive through here from Ground Zero, backed up with the self-destruction. You always saw it coming. It was going to get a couple at least. QVN and Kazette do die. The bongo drops as well. And it's Ground Zero that will fall in this fight without a single pick.
Yeah, I think that was very fortunate placing of that self-destruct. He flies in with the rocket boosters and ends up going down, only just building the ult too. The self-destruct lands on the right side of the Baptiste immortality barrier and manages to take it out. And then
Nami's waiting for the Graviton Surge. Still hasn't given away his position, but Mavericks have gone left instead of right, so that is a little unfortunate for Ground Zero in what they were trying to do. Still, any second that Melbourne Mavericks waste at this point is a second gain for Ground Zero, and we still have that Graviton Surge available. It's going to go straight out as Melbourne Mavericks make their way onto the point, and it's going to be a good clean wipe from Ground Zero. There wasn't really anything that Melbourne Mavericks had to defend against that. No support ult, certainly. That might well be the map 2-0 for Ground Zero. I struggle to believe that Melbourne Mavericks are going to really make much of an offense here. Yeah,
it's very difficult when you're swapping all those heroes across and the enemy team has a Graviton Surge, or they have, a good... Oh, he's falling down the pit, Mini, with an absolute disaster.
Oh, Davey's off. How has that happened? Both the main tanks go flying off into the abyss, but still 5v5, still winnable here for Melbourne Mavericks. QVN's off the edge as well. Everyone's going down into the abyss, and it still is favouring Ground Zero. So for, I suppose, Mini, that was a heart-stopping moment, but it is still going to result in the 2-0 for Ground Zero. Goodness me.
Yeah, I think Mini will be a bit embarrassed about that one, but there's no embarrassment in that map result. Cleaning up the Nepal 2-0. It's good. I like to see Ground Zero having a win here. They are very experienced players, and they're finally looking like a bit better together. They seem to be on the right page with this diving. Maybe a few early support ultimates out there, but they look a lot better than last week.
Yeah, certainly, and I think that's the key factor for Ground Zero. We look at that roster on paper, and actually, if we go back to what you said last week, that could have been a top 4 contender, and it could still be a top 4 contender. But what we saw last week kind of led us to believe that that might not be the case. If there is that slow progression out from this roster as they get more and more used to each other, as they start working better as a unit, then definitely by week 7, they may definitely be a contender. For now, getting past Melbourne Mavericks, look, to be honest, it's not going to be much of a tick in my book. especially considering this is such a new Melbourne Mavericks roster. But it is one step forward for Ground Zero, and I think that at least is something that they can take heart in.
Yeah, and I mean, any win will give them confidence after last week. I don't think they expected to drop as hard as they did, and it is an interesting philosophy, is learning how to win and learning how to finish games off where you are the favorite. It can be a bit easy to just to take it easy and sit back and just go through the motions, but
Thinking base order?
yeah, a little bit. Oh, Mini.
Well, I have to go in the replay package, he's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. He'll want that one back, but he'll have a laugh about it. I don't think he's the type of player to get too stuck down in that type of mistake.
Well, it's the kind of thing that you can laugh about when you win the map and you win it 2-0.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But if you, let's say, for example, lost MEO as a result of something like that, you probably wouldn't be laughing about it.
There was not much laughing for the losers of MEO, I can tell you that much. But it was a good night out afterwards.
I'm sure. Anyway, that's what we're looking forward to later on down the track. Obviously, that's where the season finals are going to be. We're looking to map 2 now as well. It's Paris coming up here. We saw a little bit of that yesterday. We saw some shenanigans with the Quad J May. That was pretty fun. We saw some Symmetra with the teleporters there as well. Also out from Athletico. I think it was a bit more standard from Sydney Drop Bears and Legacy. The only real change up there was the double sniper setup. But in fairness, we have seen actually quite a bit of variety when it comes to Paris, at least on the attack.
Yeah, I don't think teams have fully worked out the best way to attack, or the most optimal way to attack Paris. And so the teams are kind of taking their own flavor into it. And if Nepal's anything to go by, I'm expecting to see a lot of Widowmaker out of the side of Mavs. I don't know the reasoning behind this pick, but they seem to bloody love it.
Well, we did only really see it once there on Nepal. You would not maybe be too far from the truth, though, in that Paris is a map where you can make that Widowmaker work. We saw sort of Sydney Drop Bears try to have that in their wheelhouse. It didn't really seem to do a whole lot, but there was angles, that's for sure. It's just you got to hit your shots. So we'll see what Melbourne Mavericks do end up deciding to go for here. I think for Ground Zero, it's probably a little bit more cut and dry. We would expect to see more of that 3-3 setup out from them.
Yeah, I think they're going to base their compositions around this 3-3 and then just adapt on the fly to what happens. They didn't seem to go for too many outside-of-the-box picks last week either. But I do want to see Nami on this Widowmaker versus Mercedes. Nami's a very sharp Widowmaker player, and it's always exciting to see him on it, but I think he's just going to be stuck on Zarya duty tonight.
Yeah, I don't really get the sense that you'd be running the Widowmaker on the defense here.
Not unless you're playing a bunker composition.
Yeah.
Like, it won't happen. It's just wishful thinking. But
Exactly.
Mercedes is locked in Genji. This is exciting.
I don't know if I'm prepared to say before they roll out of the gates.
No, but I mean, they'll look at Ground Zero's comp. As soon as they scout Ground Zero's composition, they'll probably swap. So
yeah, so the reason that Melbourne Mavericks have initially opted for this dive composition is perhaps that they're expecting bunker, but as soon as they see that 3-3, then yeah, like you say, it'd probably be the swap back over to their own 3-3 composition.
yeah, of course. And Ground Zero looking to emulate the hold of the Sydney Drop Bears last night with the same composition. Dalsu, very, very experienced Ana player. He rates his Ana.
Maybe even.
Prolific, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Interesting to see how much value he can get out of it. Okay, Mercedes has picked the Widowmaker.
Alright.
He's locked in the hero.
Well, you're right in your assumption there, and this I think is where, as Mercedes, you kind of have to make an impact, right? You've seen it on Nepal, didn't really do a whole lot. Like, yeah, there was a couple of picks, but nothing of much substance. So you're going to invest again into the Widowmaker. Let's find something from it.
Yeah, I'd love to see a few clean headshots here. It is one of those heroes that can catch Ana players off guard. You know, you're scoped in as the Ana healing your teammates, and all of a sudden your head gets taken off.
Dalsu is very, very experienced though, so it'd be a little surprising to see that happen to him, although they should know where Dalsu is, given that obviously you can see the traces flying across, and at the moment I think he's fairly undefended actually on the left.
Yeah, he could be. It looks like Ground Zero going to take some initiation here, flush that ball out. You don't want him being pesky on the point. Dalsu goes down to the Pharah Mercy combo though. Mercedes very low, he gets dropped out, so it looks like we're trading all over the place now.
We certainly are. Nidus is going to be the next to fall, as he was dove upon by not only Money, but also by Gus, and I think Mini might have been involved in there as well. This fight still sort of hanging in the balance, but Mercedes is starting to bring it back in the favour of Melbourne Mavericks. This DPS composition that they tried to run on Nepal, well, it didn't really work there, but it certainly has here on Paris, and point A is going to go their way pretty comfortably.
Yeah, Dalsu getting caught on the wrong side of the point. Unfortunately, the boys didn't manage to help him out. You really need to help your Ana play across there, get onto the right side. It looks like Melbourne Mavericks are going to choose to snowball with these ultimates. It can be quite a tricky point for Farah to get barrage on, just because you can't really enter anywhere except for low ground. So I'm very hesitant to say that this is going to work. I think that this might be a bit of a mistake.
That said, if you can get out onto the point itself, there certainly is some avenues to work with. Mercedes just going to be dove straight away by Mini. Very, very confident start to point B from ground zero, and I'd say you might be right again in your assumptions here, Smash, in that it's not going to work too nicely for Melbourne Mavericks. So see whether or not they decide to give it another crack, but that certainly would not be filling you with confidence in this team pushing into point B.
No, certainly not. It's a very difficult point to pull off Farah on. Other heroes, Sombra, very good point for Sombra. It's decent enough for the ball dive as well, but this Farah pick, he's getting baited by this ultimate that he has. Oh, Juboy gets his head taken clean off there, and that's a good opening pick for the side of Melbourne Mavericks.
Yeah, you just put the shield down for half a second, and there goes your head. That's not a good feeling at all, but is Melbourne Mavericks going to be able to capitalize on this? Oh, so much invested into QVN, and a sleep dart puts him to sleep, incidentally. Great work from Dalsu. That was the rocket barrage and the nano boost shut down, and here comes Mini diving on in with that Winston. Might be time to shelve this composition for the Melbourne Mavericks because they've given it 2 hot cracks and neither have really have sticked.
Yeah, and the supports on the side of Ground Zero Gaming are fragging out. Dalsu and Money are getting a lot of kills between them. I'd definitely say that one of them has golden limbs. Probably Money, actually. He did a lot of work on that first point in those trade of engagements.
That's funny. Money liking gold.
Yeah. He's fond of it. GVN sticky on this Farah. I don't know. I don't see the value, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's going to be able to get a nice conk blast into an EMP. I don't know. It's a hard game.
Oh, there is the EMP. Nami loses all the shield as a result, but it's going to have to be Crimson Wolf to back away first there. Minesweeper being played by Gus, and it looks like he hasn't run into any mines of any danger at least. Still, Mini putting problems into the back line of Ground Zero. It seems to be much the same scenario as what we've seen in the previous couple of attempts from Melbourne Mavericks. They start the fight off fairly well, at least with an ultimate, or they try to engage. But then Mini dives the back line and all havoc breaks loose.
Yeah, Mini with that nano boost, really splitting the enemy team apart there.
Here's the swap.
Yeah, here comes the swap. It looks like they're going to be going off to a...
Double sniper, I want to say?
Maybe not, I don't
Well,
know.
I was expecting QVN to swap
They're going into a bunker composition. This is interesting. They're going into the Bastion composition. Alright, Mercedes playing the Hanzo. This is a hero that is a little bit easier, I guess, to pocket than Widowmaker. He has a lot of damage, so when Mini dives on him, maybe Mercedes can get some headshots in, force out an ultimate, force him to get back. So it's a better pick than Widow, I guess, but this is very strange. I want to see how they do this. Would they go in the right section and try and flush them out with using the shield? No, they're going straight up the guard, straight up the middle.
I feel like the only way that this really works is if Melbourne Mavericks do catch Ground Zero unawares and they dive on top of the Bastion and not really expecting it. Not really going to be a case now because the information certainly has been given, and there is the barrier onto Mini, the Graviton Surge straight through, and that went about as well as you could have expected for Melbourne Mavericks. Ground Zero making short work of them.
Yeah, the big anti-nade comes in, and now the sleep dart onto Crimson Wolf. This is not what you want to see if you're a Melbourne Mavericks fan. He's going to be staggered for a very long time. Yeah. Second sleep dart, here it comes, here it comes. Here. Ooh.
I think he actually hit that
I actually think he did. Mini just bopped him in the back of the head on the way through. Gus on a 15 kill streak. That shows how dominant this second point defense has been from the side of Ground Zero Gaming. They really haven't felt pressure. They've just been able to rotate the ultimates, grab one fight, nano boost Winston the next. Mini didn't even have to use his ultimate there, so he's going to be a very, very tanky boy in this next engagement.
It's looking a little bit too easy right now for Ground Zero, isn't it?
Yeah, it's looking all too easy. Mavericks are getting a few ults up though. They managed to charge most of the Bastion ult there, so that could be the game changer really. There's no Transcendence to heal through the raw damage that the Baptiste and the Orisa ult provide, so Mercedes gets a pick on Dalsu.
Yeah, but is it tradable back here from Ground Zero? Certainly is. Money and Mini, they've combined the two M brothers. Mario brothers maybe at that point, but regardless, it's not going to be quite as fun as a stroll in the park for Melbourne Mavericks.
No, it isn't. They had a good start again. They're getting an opening pick. Mercedes takes it. Oh, and he gets the ult charge too for the knockoff. That's handy. But yeah, Mercedes gets the opening pick, the lucky pick onto Dalsu, shooting those logs out. But it really came into nothing as Juboy and Mini were able to use their ults to engage, get on top of the Bastion, and he had no chance of living there after the the Immortality field was taken out. I just don't see, if they stack up as 6, Mini's going to get massive cleave off with his nano boost. They have to be very careful where they drop this Immortality field too. If it's in line of sight of Dalsu, he's going to get taken out early.
Oh, well, here we go again. It's the same rodeo. Ground Zero have seen this movie before, and they know how it ends. I think we all do as well. Melbourne Mavericks this time do back away a little bit quicker, so maybe there's something to be said for them here. Mercedes will be eventually finished off, and that, I think, probably means it's going to be the end of the fight as well. Good chase here from Ground Zero too. Really good stagger.
Yeah, another stagger onto Gazette too. The Mercy stagger. Something you don't see every day, but unfortunate. QVN now onto the Torbjorn. Okay, this is a bit more of a mobile composition. You know, they're not hard forced to group around the Bastion like they are, well, with the Bastion. So that makes Mini a little less valuable. But with this Graviton Surge combination coming up, I don't even think they'll need the bomb. I think they'll just be able to throw in a Biotic Grenade. Hope that Crimson Wolf doesn't need it. If he doesn't need it, this fight's over.
You've been pretty correct with all of your predictions so far tonight, Smash, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for this one. See how it's going to go for Melbourne Mavericks. Maybe the self-destruct will pose a bit of a problem for them. Graviton Surge, though, does come through from Nami, and down goes the field. Mini is relishing again in the chance to just absolutely pound on Melbourne Mavericks. Making amends perhaps for jumping off the map there on Nepal, and Crimson Wolf will survive a little bit longer than most, but quite frankly, what difference does it make? Melbourne Mavericks, 50% point 8 is about as good as they managed there on point B, and it really never looked threatening.
Yeah, every time they stacked up to move through to contest the point, Ground Zero were just able to jump on them with the Winston, getting massive cleave damage off every single time. The anti-grenades were coming in hot and fast from Dalsu. Crimson couldn't keep up, and unfortunate, I guess. It's a really difficult comp to pull off, especially on attack of second point Paris. It's an interesting thought that they had. Maybe they could catch them off guard with the Bastion or the Hanzo, but a bit too much experience on the side of Ground Zero Gaming to be caught sleeping on that.
So, the question for me is, how quickly is Ground Zero going to finish this map?
Ooh. Well, it could be deceptively...
You're not ready to get on that hype train with me?
No, it could be deceptively slow. If Melbourne Mavericks, they've shown that they want to play these bunker-based compositions, right? They want to play these. So if they could get, not lucky, but if they can manage to get the first fight win, maybe the second fight win too, it can take a while to capture this point.
Yep.
Davey is on the Symmetra. I want to see if he is teleporting someone into a rinky-dink position. No, he's jumping off the map. As you do. When in Rome or Paris.
I've been to Paris, have you?
No, I haven't.
Well,
I bet you... Alright.
maybe
Mr.
one day.
European traveller.
City of Love. You and me can go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Alright.
Take you up the
You're
Eiffel
paying?
Tower. Actually, when I was at the top of the Eiffel Tower, I saw someone proposing, so there you go.
Oh, well, that's good.
She said yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was beautiful. There was a bit of crying involved and some
Happy tears,
champagne
of
or
course.
something. Yeah. It was quite a while ago. I wonder how they're going. Don't know who it was. Anyway.
Well, looks like we have Bunky versus Bunky. Money on the Baptiste. Mercedes on the Widowmaker and Nami on the Hanzo. We saw a Kraken have a huge game on this map with Hog last night. Be interesting to see if Dalsu can one-up him here.
Yeah. And I think for Mercedes Precious, it's really on again. You know, like, it's the kind of hero where if you don't get a pick here, your team probably just gets steamrolled without you. So, waiting for anything to happen for Melbourne Mavericks. Ground Zero do take it slow, but that seems to be working quite nicely. They've got the D-Mech, they've gotten rid of the turret as well, and now is when we can commence the push. Crimson Wolf has fallen. So, for now, it's a 5v6 favouring Ground Zero. They get onto the point, set themselves up with Batiste, and he's got his ultimate there as well, very, very early on in the piece, and that might well be the end of Melbourne Mavericks on point A.
Yeah, Money doing big work there to get his ultimate up so fast. So very fast, actually. Jeez, he really built that quick. Gus is on 38% of a bomb, and he's got an ult and a half already. He's lapped him, in fact. So now we see Mavericks try and go something that can break the bunker apart a bit. They're going for this dive composition. Only one support. Okay, no, they are going two supports. I thought they were a bit wacky there, but Mercedes on the Genji, QVN on the Sombra. Sombra is a hero that QVN has played a lot of, so I feel a bit more comfortable with him on this hero instead of Farah, but...
Yeah.
Oh, the hook does connect, but doesn't pull them back in, not like the old days.
Reminiscing about that before the broadcast, and Dalsey would have loved it if it was the beta hog, but maybe he's going to try and be the alpha hog here, jumping straight onto the point, straight into a sleep dart. Doesn't really matter too much. QVN on the Sombra, as you mentioned, putting some damage into money, but some good peel coming out there from Gus, and Dewboy is on the point with the tank mode and doing a lot of damage. Cazette falls to dancing around the statue, and there's very few Melbourne Mavericks players left on this point. Well, for one smash, I was right and you were wrong. I questioned how quickly Ground Zero were going to get it done, and that was quickly indeed, and now they're up 2-0. Not a great start to the series here for Melbourne Mavericks at all.
No, it's a bit of a rough start, but you know, last week after the break they played a little bit better, so hopefully they can come back after the break this time and repeat it.
Well, I'd certainly be hoping for something like that from Melbourne Mavericks. It just doesn't really seem like they're getting anything together, really. We haven't seen a 3-3 composition from them at all today so far, so that's quite clearly not in the wheelhouse. Unless they, in the next 5 minutes or so, decide that that's going to change. I'd be expecting to see more of the same from Melbourne Mavericks, and I just don't think it's going to get them the win tonight.
No, I think it's a tough ask to go up against an experienced squad like Ground Zero and try and pull these cheesier compositions out, especially given the fact that they've looked, I don't know, they haven't looked incredibly sound on these strategies as well. It looked like they've been in half decisions, you know, swapping between different types of bunker compositions. They don't look like Athletico, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. I mean, I guess you got to give some slack in the respect that they have not even been in a roster for a week. So how much scrim time they've been able to get, how much practice together as a unit they've been able to get, I'm not so sure. But at the end of the day, this is exactly the kind of week that you want as Ground Zero. This is the bounce back that you need from going down 0-4 in week 1, come back in week 2, get a 4-0 for yourself, start feeling like, you know what, we can actually come back into this season. Not that, you know, they're out of it just yet, but maybe there is that internal feeling that something's not going right for Ground Zero. I think this really turns things around for them. Yeah,
confidence booster is what they need. Especially their players. I know a few of their players personally. They are very confidence-based players. Very good mechanically. Once they're in the right mindset, they can be pretty dangerous. So these guys, I mean, I don't write Ground Zero off for the whole season because, no. I mean, they could come back and be a top 4 competitor.
I certainly have not, and I'm sure most people haven't either. We're only into week 2. That's 2 maps done, though, for us today. Still a couple more to come in this series. We're going to head to a quick break, but Ground Zero looking for the 4-0 after this.